Welcome, AIS artist. Today we're going to start a new project, and we are going to learn a little bit about Georgia O'Keeffe. You should have already just listened to a quick little video about her. She's from Wisconsin originally, and how she really enjoyed working and doing landscapes and nature, flowers, skulls, and she did them big so that it almost didn't look like a flower. So we're going to use her inspiration, especially being February, or the end of February, March is National Women's History Month. So we're going to learn about some women artists, and she is one of them. So this is what our project is going to start to look like. So I've used sunflowers as my flower, and I've made them large, and I've overlapped and taken them off the page. So we're going to work with overlap. We're going to learn about values, and we're going to go big. So we're not going to use a big sheet of paper, but on the sheet of paper that you have, you're going to go big. So this will be step one of working with Georgia O'Keeffe inspired flowers, and then we're going to move it to a printmaking activity. So again, I stayed with my idea of sunflowers and created a print. So we're going to do a couple projects revolving around doing flowers large, and our first one will be with watercolor and oil pastel, and then our second piece will be printmaking. So we'll look forward to doing that. But first of all, you have learned a little bit about Georgia O'Keeffe by listening to the video. On your tables, you will have a little handout. This is a student worksheet that you'll do before you start painting. So it's just kind of a nice worksheet to help you remember a little bit about Georgia O'Keeffe and her inspiration for us. So it's a couple pages, and do the best that you can. Again, in our piece, we're going to show overlap, so we're going to have foreground, middle ground, and background. On this page, the last page might be a little difficult for students, but try your best, and we will readdress this. So you're going to put your name on this, and I will collect them so that I hang on to them, and then we'll pass them back and go over them at some point during our exploration of Georgia O'Keeffe. So our first step in learning about and working in Georgia O'Keeffe style is learning about value scale. A value scale is when you go from light to dark. Okay, and on my cabinet over by the sink, we have a value scale of greens where you start with a tint and you move through the pure color and go into a shade. Okay, so everybody is going to have a manila sheet of paper. Okay. One, because you can see white really good with this. And you're going to put your name and teacher's name on the back. And it's really nice, I think, if you put your table color. Okay. And then we're going to fold this. So a value scale, you usually have at least 5 different values. And you always start with the lightest color, and you're moving in this direction. So I have a tint. So started with white, and then my blue or my red made a tint, and then I moved into the pure color, and then I started adding black to make my shade. So we're going to divide our paper up into 5 sections. I'm just going to move this out of the way. So to do that, and there is no wrong way, and I don't have paper towels with me, so we're just going to fold this sheet into thirds. So just fold it. So you're going to look at your paper and bring one sheet up so it's 1/3 of the way, and then fold the top sheet down. Again, if it's not perfect, it's okay. So now we have thirds. Now we have to divide it into 5 sections. So I would just fold it maybe about up to your middle knuckle. 1, 2, just kind of making like a fan. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, my 5th one will be long. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So I made mine my last one kind of long. Maybe I'll start that one with my tint. Okay, so unfold it, and then you might even want to kink it so you can kind of see it a little bit better. So on this paper, you can do 2 different colors. On mine, I did red and blue. So on this one, I think I'll do green and maybe yellow. So in the middle, I'm going to put value chart. Value chart. because Georgia O'Keeffe liked to show values and create almost a 3D effect by using variations of color. So that's how artists try to create on a two-dimensional page 3D by showing shading and highlights. So we're going to try and practice with that. So I've got my name on it. I have it into 5 sections, and I'm going to start with white. So everyone's going to have a little tray that they're going to share with their neighbor. And these are probably dry. Unless the class before you started, they're probably dry. So what you're going to do first is add some water to each of these little things. So you're going to dip your brush in the water and just tap some water into each of the colors, because you might not know which color you want to use. And so I'm getting a little bit more in the yellow because it's really dry. A little bit into the green. Notice I'm putting my brush into the water all the time. Tapping the brush down, that kind of gets it clean. My water is pretty clean. And then just dabbing it into the black. So all my colors now have a little bit of water. And again, you're going to share this with the neighbor next to you. You're going to start with white. Always start with white. So I'm going to I'm going to massage that water into the paint. Because again, it's probably really dry. I'm not pushing my brush like this. I'm trying to keep the brush form by twirling it and massaging that water to make sure that I have a lot of nice pigment. So starting at the light end, actually I'm going to do it where it's bigger. I'm going to just lay down some paint. I'm going to turn it this way so you can see. So I laid down my white to try to create my tint. I'm going to do my white into the next space because that's where I want my first tint to start. And like I said, I'm going to tap it out and I'm going to pick up some green. So I'm going to massage some green into my brush. Notice I'm twirling my brush to try and keep the form of my brush good. And now I'm going to just tap a little bit of green into my white. And I should be making a tint. I'm not going to go back into the white to get more white paint. So what you might want to have is a paper towel so that you can make sure you only have a little bit of color. So I'm working it not all the way to the edge, but I'm working it in. So now I have a nice light green. So my next one, I want more green. So I'm going to twirl my brush around and I'm going to pick up more green. So this is almost my pure color. I'm twirling my brush, picking up more pure green. And now I'm going to add the black to make the tint, or the shade. White makes a tint, black makes the shade. You only need a little bit of black. So again, if I had a paper towel, I would tap the excess water off my brush, pick up a little bit of black, and put black down. I'm going to pick up a little bit more black. And you really want to work with a paper towel so that your paper doesn't get too wet. I'm going to add a little more black at the end. Okay. So now I've done my value scale for green, and it's really wet, so I don't want to hold it up and drip it too much. But you can see that I've started with white. I added a little bit of green to get a tint. I added more green to get more of the pure color right in here, and then I started adding the black to make the shade. So again, it's called a value scale. You're gonna do another color, so pick another color and do the bottom. So you should have 2 value scales that you're done. Again, this isn't watercolor paper, so if you pick it up, this is what's going to happen. If you say, hey, look at mine, you might notice that it'll start to drip. So mine is starting to drip a little bit here. So you don't want to show your neighbors by picking it up. So you're just going to carefully hold it flat or horizontally and carry it to the drying rack. Once you've done playing around and having fun with adding your value scale and putting that into the drying rack, you're then going to work on your design. And we're going to use watercolor paper. I'm trying to see where my watercolor paper is. There we go. Everybody's going to get a sheet of watercolor paper, and you're going to draw out your flower. So you will have on your table a little sheet about Georgia O'Keeffe, so you can kind of see she was really famous for her morning glories. And then these flowers, the nice red flowers. You can think of any flower that you like to do, and you want to try and show overlap and off the page. So a lot of circles, a lot of flowers have circles as their center, and you certainly can grab one of these tracers and use that, and that might be a great start. So I think I'm going to do, again, a sunflower, and I'm going to put the center of my sunflower here, and then I'm just going to make the petals go off the page. So create a design, and since we're going to paint, you might want to go really lightly. However, we probably will outline with something black, like a black oil pastel or crayon. So that's one, and I want to maybe do another one, maybe right in the center. So you're going to design out your flower. You could just do one flower, and that takes up the whole page. So I'm going to show overlap, something in the foreground, middle ground, and background. If you just do one flower, then you just have one flower as your centerpiece. So if I just wanted to do one flower, I'm going to turn it over. Before you do anything, you want to make sure your name is on this. So I'm going to do one flower in the middle, and then I'm going to make it big and go off the page. So you can just do one flower. If you want to practice and do a practice sheet, that's always a good idea, because we're working on watercolor paper. In fact, that's what we might do is, instead of starting on your watercolor paper, because I don't have a lot of watercolor paper, we will use a rough draft sheet of paper. So I'm going to go and get a rough draft. So you're just going to use a rough draft sheet of paper. It's almost the same size as our watercolor paper, and play around with that. So like I said, I like to do sunflowers. You could do cherry blossoms, okay? Cherry blossoms are usually 4 or 5 petals. Okay, and flowers are just a lot of times just some curved lines. Okay, you could do a big tulip if you like tulips, or if you even know what a tulip is. This is the shape of a tulip. Okay, so you could do any flower that you like. If you want a little bit of a stem, you can have, but we're really just going for the flower itself. And again, we're trying to go big. So enjoy working and learning about your value scale, working on your handout, learning about Georgia O'Keeffe, coming down with some ideas, okay, brainstorming, okay, what do you see, what colors do you see, okay, what family of those colors. And then once you've done both that and the worksheet, if there's time, grab a rough draft sheet of paper first and start designing your Georgia O'Keeffe inspired flowers. So we'll go to this, and then the next time we meet up, we'll see where we're at, put it onto watercolor paper, and then start with our watercolors. So we'll finally be using the watercolors that you guys brought in to school. So we'll have lots of resources on your tables and handouts learning about Georgia O'Keeffe, the woman artist of our month. Have fun.